Okay, so I get the message that I'm now streaming live on Facebook. Wonderful. That was the goal of this experience. I'm loving the technology, and I have a mantra now which says, I love technology, technology loves me. And like in all relationships, sometimes there are ups and downs. So I'm welcoming everybody who's watching. And if you're out there and you want to say hello, just join me, because I'm also streaming this on Facebook, but also on Zoom, and you can go and hop on the Zoom with me. The link is provided in the event in my group event item that's posted on the group. So if you want to join me there. Okay, so let me know if you can actually see me and hear me well, because that's really important before I continue. And that would not be so great if that was not the case. So if you can just drop me a comment and let me know about that. Okay, so part 4 of the mystic's journey is about eclipsing your shadows. And the eclipse is probably in about 2 weeks' time. I'm not exactly sure on the date. I don't really follow the, let's say, the schedules of the moon and the sun so closely. It would be another science for me. And yes, Eclipse is the name of my program, but it is because it stands for Energy Clearing Leadership Intensive for personal and professional self-empowerment. That's what my eclipse is. And eclipse means that something is darkening and turning back into light. And that's what we're going to listen to today, because I want to make sure everyone understands this, everyone has a handle on this. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this. So right now, I'm going to just continue on with my presentation. My intent today is to also give you something to personally work with. And if you're here to basically grow with the flow, you will run into moments where you don't understand what's going on, because life isolates you in a way that you don't link with people who are normally part of your life, and you just don't feel like they understand you. You don't really understand them that much, and you're getting a feeling of disconnect. And if you're here and you've had this a little bit all of your life already, that you have this disconnect, it's because something inside of you does not want to conform with the rest, but also because your message that the soul is giving you is, don't get attached, don't get into the mindset of this world, and also don't have your mind clouded with mundane things, because the divine things want your attention. So sometimes that really is life-shattering, because it kind of feels like you're getting the rug pulled out from underneath you, and you fall into this semi-depressed state and feel sorry for yourself. Or you go into a slur of, let's say, escapades, where you either overly drug yourself, overly use alcohol or something to numb your senses and escape the whole feeling so much thing. Many empaths have that, and it's probably part of the journey, because it's going to make you understand what it feels like not to feel yourself. so that you can learn how to feel yourself properly. So your journey continues, because that's not the end of it, because you will probably come to a point where you say, okay, well, I'd like to rather understand what's going on. I'd rather want to really bring light into my darkness. And sometimes you need somebody else, and sometimes you can do this on your own. And many people who have managed to get out of it on their own had said to me later on, when they connected with me, I wished I knew you then. My name is Lydia Prushinger, and I'm a spiritual teacher, business and leadership coach, empowering soul leaders to find and thrive in their sacred soul purpose. And while this is my elevator pitch, and we're probably going to, learn more about what it means to be a soul leader in my following slides, souls who are choosing this journey are not an average soul. They are extraordinary souls. They are the bravest souls alive today. And I think that it's an important thing to know that even though this program is 7 weeks, I'm actually saying, okay, well, 7 weeks with me and the rest of your lifetime with yourself brings this into perspective as to how much of this eclipse part is true, because the sun is shining all the time, and then there is one eclipse and everything goes dark. And during this darkness, it is really, really important that you understand who you are, so you're not getting thrown off your wagon. Because when we come into this life, we get this veil of forgetting. We don't remember everything that we agreed to. We don't remember the soul contracts we have. We don't know who we agreed to be in this lifetime together. We don't also remember what those archetypes are that we chose. So all of those things we've forgotten is still there, but we need to kind of remember. And that is a good thing to do when you're actually running into those moments where you say, I understand so much already, but nothing is working. Nothing is really turning out in my favor. And if you want to go into your sacred soul purpose with a business, that is the moment where you stop and say, okay, well, I can't really go into a business rather than doing something that requires my utmost attention away from me. I need to know who I am and give myself the attention, so I'm empowered, so I have the power that I need to really, really indulge myself with, let's say, learning the very mechanisms that make me me, and the dynamics that come with that. So if you can make a list of your archetypes and your shadow self aspects, this program is probably not for you. But if you have an empty space behind I am and would like to find out more about what this is about, what you are about, what your aspects are, your shadows and your archetypes, then this is for you. And whilst we all struggle sometimes to understand the dynamics behind it, it is really always the starting point, so that you understand your soul path and that you understand that your true self has nothing to do with those little aspects of you, that those little aspects of you are there to guide you, and they're part of your ego, and they're probably also just waiting to be tamed in a way that they don't take over the wheel and run away with it and say, hey, I'm taking my own course, I don't care. So you have to empower yourself enough to understand that when your inner child is active, that you're not passing on that wheel. And if your victim is active, that you're not passing on the wheel of the course of your soul path. Because you need to feel safe, and a victim probably never does. You need to acquire the knowledge that it takes in order to be empowered, so that you can have your freedom from all of those things that might be running you. Rather than let those things run you, you have to kind of take over and say, oh, I want to feel more power in myself to really be able to take the wheel into my hands. And that is the freedom from being reactive and passive and just letting things happen or allowing things happen to you. And that's when you are on the path to mastery of yourself and also of understanding what your soul path is about. And there's nothing wrong with you, okay? Everyone has this. Everyone is struggling with this, some more, some less. And those who understand shadows, they still have to learn how to handle them and how to get all of the gunk out. So this is most of the things that I've done in my, let's say, in my previous careers and my relationships, because that's what I needed to find out about who I am, so that my person, who I am today, doesn't run on a default, but really learns how to handle emotions and be conscious about who I am. And this is what Carl Jung meant with the unconscious aspects, because when you're in your shadow, you don't understand completely what your personality is doing, because your ego is so strong that it gives you an illusion of pain and suffering and pain and suffering and pain and suffering, that you don't even know that there is something else outside of that. And when you become shadow aspect conscious, you're looking to not yourself first, but those who are irritating you the most. And those who are irritating you the most are the ones that are the biggest teachers, because they agreed with you before that incarnation that they would bug you so much and give you so much run for your money that you're going to learn on a cellular soul level that this is what you need to integrate into your personality and into your soul so that you can grow and never make this experience again. And this is what um, uh, others call the soul esteem, but I call it self empowerment and self growth on a soul level. And there you go. You have to understand on a soul level who you really are so that you can learn to focus on that inner self that wants to be heard, that wants to be seen, and wants to explore and wants to grow. And it's going to do that anyway, if you're listening or not. You're just going to be the one who is suffering. And as long as you're suffering, you're not growing. Your lessons are going to be repeated until you have grown so much that it's not necessary to go into that situation ever again. So what you need to do is you have to open up and learn and let go. And the letting go process is one of the most important things that you can ever do during this time. And 7 weeks' time is not a very long time, but 7 weeks' time is just enough to scratch the surface. Everything else that you've acquired for an entire lifetime, where your mind and your body are wired for this, takes a longer time than 7 weeks. But you can become conscious of what it is that you need to do and then start doing it. And one of the things that I really have encountered are the victim patterns. Shadow aspects are often hidden, and you're not going into empowerment unless you understand, what is it that makes me feel like a victim? I don't want to feel like a victim anymore. What is it that can empower me? So you have to look at the emotions. What are the situations, people, or belief systems you hold that lock you into a victim mindset? And then change that. So when you're learning how to change this, it's really all about observing your emotion, describing them, becoming mindful of them, learning how you react in situations towards other people, learn how you judge them, how you judge yourself, learn how you act with them, be with, with that external observation. How do you act with them that triggers them so that they trigger you? How do you provoke others? How do you become the rebellious person? How do you stand in your own power? How do you hand out your power to others? And all of this. How do you become a generator of your emotions rather than absorbing the emotions and whatever triggers you from the outside? And that's usually when you learn to feel what your body says, because your body is storing all of the information of the eons in your body, because you are here to learn and to grow for your own experiences, not for everybody else. So you've got to learn to accept all of who you are and not judge yourself. You have to learn to accept all of who other people are and not judge them, because you can never be rich if you're judging rich people. And yes, there are people who are using the wealth for negative things, but you don't need to judge them. You can look at people who are using the wealth for positive things and thank them. So there is a shift in focus that can never happen if you're judging people. And I just saw a typo and get irritated with it. And I could say, oh my goodness, this is horrible. But I say, okay, well, if I didn't put that S in observe, it's probably because I needed to become aware of my, let's say, my imperfection and learning how to handle my perfectionist. My inner perfectionist is sometimes so hard to handle that I get locked in a non-moving state where I say, hey, I need to be doing this. I want to do this. But my perfectionist says, no, who do you think you are? You can't do this because you have to be perfect to do this. So you would never be able to do this because you're not perfect. And then I say, okay, well, that's your opinion. Thank you very much. And I do it anyway. Okay. So that's how you handle your inner perfectionist. You do it anyway because you love yourself anyway, because you're not perfect. And that's good because nobody's perfect, right? So you do the transformational work, you do the transmuting, the transcending, and the transforming rather than becoming the victim. And that's important because you want to know exactly that you're on track with your path, with your purpose, and with your mission and vision in life. And, here's news for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to build a business around it. It could be that you're doing a menial job. It could be that you're just a housewife, a mother. So the purpose of my doing this, before you start a business, before you're actually throwing yourself into this thinking, oh, I've got to build a business around my purpose because that's who I am, you have to understand that it takes an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur mindset and an entrepreneur aspect of your soul and archetype in order to be successful in this. And if you don't have that, because your archetype says you're a mother, or your archetype says you're um, a caregiver, then there is no use of trying to become an entrepreneur. Because you can't become an entrepreneur if your soul said, no, this is not your path. So becoming clear about this ahead of time is important because it saves you from failure, even though failure doesn't exist, but it saves you time and investing and a lot of money to basically, say, okay, well, even though this is an idea I had, maybe I just don't need to go there. And I'm giving you an example. I thought at some point, I want to open up a yarn shop because I love knitting and I'm a crafter. This is one of my archetypes as well. I want to be a crafts genius in the world. I want to be in my business. I want to do this. And I saw on YouTube many people who do. So I thought, well, I should be able to do this, right? I tell you, this is another story. You don't want to know the story, but I tell you this anyway, in a nutshell. I needed to learn how to do things in a way that it was on a soul level. And I got this experience on a soul level, so I don't ever get off my path again. Okay, so I handed the wheel to my crafter, and my crafter said, oh, this is good. And then you sit down and you knit, but you don't get you don't get much done. And so since I'm not a very fast knitter, I learned new skills, but I couldn't I couldn't learn new skills in the time that I needed in order to set this up. So I was in a relationship that I wasn't feeling too well in. I had my daughter who was still living with me. I had too many distractions. So guess what? My other archetype, which is the self-saboteur, came in and said, you don't really need this. You don't want to be all day in a shop handling people in a shop who have knitting problems and don't buy yarn from you. You don't want people who come into your shop and tell you all of their life story and don't buy yarn. And my, you know, my the voice that I gave to this self-saboteur was so convincing that I just said, okay, well, maybe he's right. Hmm. So this is another episode of Lydia going off her path, because my path is here, right here with you. And I just didn't want to go live. I didn't want to be in the public eye. I don't want to, I don't want to tell you how much pain that cost me to overcome this threshold of being heard and seen. I don't want to give you the dirty details of me understanding that there is other, there is no other path than through this hell of learning to look at yourself. And in the meantime, I digress, but my self-image really suffered because of the fact that I felt inadequate, having a chronic disease. Who am I to give people advice? I have a chronic disease, and the disease took over, and this woundology I created around it. Woundology is a word that's created by Caroline Mess, and if you haven't guessed it by now, she's one of the main inspirations and mentors of doing what I do, because this is how I feel connected to this universe and to people around me. So that's where my soul purpose came in. That's where my soul contracts lie. And I understood, that people who need to be working with me on this, they have to identify with this. They have to understand that, yes, you need to learn skills to do what you came here to do, but perhaps you already have skills that you already have, but you're not aware of and you're not using. And you have to learn how to use them more effectively. And those are usually skills you kind of take for granted. Those are skills that you have so naturally that you wouldn't even charge for it. So, you know, and those are skills that are only important to you and to the people that you're serving, not to everybody else, so people don't value them. So you have to acquire a new set of values, a new set of thoughts and habits around it, and you create your identity based on your true self and not what other people are expecting from you. And then you just understand, okay, well, if I have to choose something, I'm going to choose the pain in my gain rather than the pain of my failing to learn and grow. Because both is pain of growing and pain of failure. You need to choose. So in other words, if you really want to be in this, you have to make a powerful decision. And the decision is, do I really want to live my sacred soul purpose? And do I want to understand who I am on a soul level and get to know my true self rather than having to deal and fight with my soul aspects and my shadows? And whilst I'm not here to tell you who you are, because you probably discover that, I tell you that you will discover yourself, your true self, only by going inward and meditating and learning to handle your emotions, because those are the ones that are going to make you feel safe. Those are the ones that are making you feel connected. Those are the ones that give you the necessary self-care, take care of your mess, and come out of survival and going into thrive mode, discerning more about who you are and your power and your connections with the universe and the life force that you have available in plenty if you're allowing it in and not suppressing it by saying, I'm like this, I'm like that, and all of the negative talk. So your self-perception and self-care and your magnetism are intimately linked, and your connections with the outer world and other people and the relationship you have with yourself is the same. It's just a reflection of who you feel you are, that you see in other people, who you are with them. So in order to become fully aware of your mission, vision, and your values, you have to clear that heart field. You have to clear the patterns of your relationships. You have to clear everything that you love, be clear on what you love, and no longer get triggered by what it is that you don't love so much. And there are many people around you who are going to tell you that you're going to be changing and they don't connect with you anymore, and just get comfortable with being alone for a while. And if that is something that I say may happen, it is not a requirement, but I encourage you to learn to be alone. Because if you're only kind of seeing yourself in a social butterfly kind of situation where you always need people around you, you will always have their fields interacting with your field. And then as an empath, you might not know exactly what is mine, what is theirs. So when you're alone, that's something you can already take out of that equation. And it's really important to listen to your inner self and the divine connection that comes through your intuition. And so, yeah, remember the time in school when you wrote something wrong and the teacher would make you write it many, many times so you never write it wrong again? Yeah, I'm not that kind of teacher. Um, I'm the kind of teacher that makes you want to write down that you are a soul leader so that you never forget. Because in the moment that you come into this life, and when you discover that you have a purpose, and when you discover that this is something that you need to do in order to create a business around it, and if you're understanding how important it is for you to really go into the growth process and to learn how to do this and learn how to activate your power and activate your soul knowing, which comes through when you're really activated on all of your chakras. That's when you're going to connect with the right people. You're going to bring into experience the right people who are going to help you see what your next steps are, or you're going to just see the next steps and then the people come in. So this is how it works. You get the breadcrumbs on the road in order to continue, and there is perhaps not a complete knowing, but you have a next step, and you have a knowing and a clarity about what it is that you need to do. And you definitely benefit from learning that no matter what happens in this time that you're developing those skills, that you have always a place where you feel safe. And that safe place is inside of you, not someplace else, not someplace outside. It's within you. Because imagine expecting others to feel safe and well with you being around if you can't do this within yourself. That is one of the most powerful things you can learn. So this is module 4. Module 5, I'm going to foreshadow already a little bit, is about how you establish wealth growth mindset, how you imply that or apply that in your business. Should you then decide to do this, how you create a spiritual business with the vision as a soul leader and your signature talk, what this is about, because this is what you need to create in order to basically magnetize your business and be in touch with the right kind of people. And the module 7 is about designing your soul leadership mission. And for me, I think the mission is a little bit greater than just being in a business, because a mission can have several businesses. It can have several careers. It can have several aspects of your life choices. And, my mom is not going to get any younger. So part of my mission and soul leadership mission is designing a space where I can apply myself in my business, but also be there for my family and for those who need me most. Because I will not tolerate the kind of treatment that our government is giving elderly people. So I have the space in my home. I have 250 square meters. I live here alone with my dog and my cat. So I can make space in my heart, right? Okay, so this is all about the 4th module of my program. And I'm really going to look forward to any questions you might have. You can hop on here because I don't see them displayed here on my phone. So if you're asking questions in the group, I really don't see them. And if you want to hop on now, I still have a few minutes. And yeah, let me know, unless you feel like I've covered already everything, which I doubt. But it would be great to hear from you. And if I go offline now, and if I go off my live, obviously the video is still going to show on the group, and you can always message me then. So, okay. And I see that somebody wanted to come on Zoom but didn't manage.